What a day. What a day. Do we have a lot to get into in this video? Oh my gosh, this might be one of the most action-packed videos we had in a while because so much happened today. There's so much to talk about on so many different fronts. Like, I don't even know where to start with this. I'm going to try my best to just get it all in, guys. Hope you enjoy this as always, okay? First off, like the markets, okay? The markets finished green. Yes, you heard me right. Green. If you were asleep all day and you didn't see anything going on with the stock market today or crypto market or anything like that, you missed an epic day, okay? One of those like we shouldn't forget because you don't get many of these days just happening very often. But nonetheless, it was a disaster zone in the market here today. The NASDAQ at one point was down around 5%, okay? So for the NASDAQ to finish up 0.6% is epic, okay? It was about a 5.5% move roughly intraday. I can tell you, ask anybody that's in the market, very often, you don't get 5% plus intraday moves in the NASDAQ very dang often. It comes very few and far between. And so this was an extraordinary move for the NASDAQ. In the markets in general, the Dow today was down 1,100 plus points at one point. It was bad, okay? Now, two things happened very important today, okay? And both of these things are quite interesting what happened. So if you don't know, this is very important. There's a Fed meeting tomorrow, okay? Now, I believe two things happened today. One is I think big money wanted to shake the market in a massive way and send a warning shot to Jay Powell and everybody over at the Fed who makes decisions over there with their meeting happening tomorrow. Like, hey, don't forget who's really got the power here, okay? I think this was a Wall Street flex to kind of say, hey, you get a little too aggressive with things. We're sending this baby down and down fast. And we know if this whole mess, if the market comes crashing down like days like it did today, it's not just individual, folks like myself that are, picking individual stocks that are hurt. Everybody's hurt in that situation. Wealth is wiped out from retirees, from everybody, right? And it even starts to create economic worries out there where folks start worrying like, oh my gosh, the stock market's crashing. The NASDAQ's down 5%. It's so few and far between that the NASDAQ's ever down 5%. You're like, oh my gosh, the stock market's crashing. This means the economy's in a bad place. I need to pull back on spending. I need to do this, do that, right? And so the Fed's in the situation where, man, I can tell you, I wouldn't want their job right now because they've seen inflation go crazy in the past year. They lagged huge on that. They should have been raising rates last year, which in my opinion is what they should have been doing. Should have been raising rates last year with inflation going crazy, and they didn't. They lagged. Now all of a sudden they're talking about raising rates, and I'm telling you, they should not raise rates. That's just flat out. They should not raise rates this year. I've gone on record to say I'd be shocked if they even do 2 rate hikes this year. I would say, man, don't even rate hike at this point in the market because what you're going into now is a possibility of a slowdown in consumer spending as it is. And you could end up in a situation that if the Fed raises rates, it could cause the market to potentially, especially if they do it too aggressively, to crash more, for there to be more devastation, which creates a cycle of just kind of downward movement. So I think Wall Street and big money shook things out today and said, hey, you know what? This is our warning shot to you, Fed. You better wake up or this baby's going down big time, right? And, a lot of folks have felt like NASDAQ could go down to 11.5 if we had a massive move down. And that's a long way from here. That would be vicious. Number two, the other big thing that happened today that big money did is they shook out retail. Retail got shaken out of this market like it was nobody's business today. I think there were margin calls that happened today based upon pricing activity, especially with anything that is more of a popular retail stock. Look at the moves down for those stocks here today. It was beyond epic. Let's just put it that way. The moves for the retail crowd, whether we're talking YouTube stocks or just stocks that are popular on social media, right? Reddit, YouTube, other forums, those sorts of stocks got hit the hardest at the peak today. Many of them were down 10% plus. And that's after these stocks, many of these stocks have fallen 50, 60, 70+% from 52-week highs. And many of these stocks are at either massive 52-week lows or they're at all-time lows. And yet you still got a massive shakeout today with many of those stocks at the trough today falling 10% plus. It was extraordinary, okay? And so, yeah, nonetheless, look at the chef here today, TDCF, right? So, chef hit 1089 today. 1089. I mean, that's extraordinary. Now, do look at the move coming back for this stock. It bottoms right around here, and into the last several hours of trading, this baby just soared higher. I mean, you got to look at the stock like that, and you're like, okay, how did this happen today? How did the stock go all the way down to $10.89? And then how did it magically come back like nobody's business for the last several hours of trading? I mean, that's just, that's not like that's a small move. Like, that's a crazy move with no news on the back of the company. I had to go to like Target stores and start doing channel checks. I left the house. I was like, there's people still buying? The chef, did they get kicked out of the Target stores? What's going on here, man? I had to go start doing channel checks. It's insane, right? And, in terms of the pricing action, kind of what happened there, and by the way, I just want to show Square stock here today. Look at this one, and then we'll go back to the chef. Square stock down to $102 today at the lows, $102 for Square. It's a stock that was almost $300, like literally like 6 months ago. That's an extraordinary fall for not even a small cap, a pretty dang large cap in Square, right? But in terms of TDCF, a friend who keeps super up to date in the market and with the technicals, and I just look at him as somebody that it has a lot of information. Let's call it that. And what he says this is for TDCF. You can see pre-market hardly any volume. The market opened, and I bet a bunch of retail had market sell orders. Thus, a massive 200,000 shares traded, which that's a crazy amount for the chef. 200,000 shares traded in the first 5 minutes. That's an epic amount. The chef, doesn't even have like that much volume on an average daily basis. Might be chef daily volume might be 1 million shares or a little over 1 million shares. So to have 200,000 shares trade in the first 5 minutes, yeah, there's a ton of retail that just had sell orders for basically everything, right? But the chef was just one of those many stocks, and basically just sell it whenever the market opens, and so you get this massive sellout. He says, then the selling pressure looked pretty consistent or pretty constant during the morning, 10:30 a.m., which would be Pacific time, and beyond, there wasn't even heavy buying pressure, and the stock went up 7%. He says, I bet it was a short slowly covering to not spike the price, okay? And if we look at that chart a little more in depth, you kind of see what he's talking about. It's looking at over 5 minute spans essentially, and the stock bottoms at that 1089, and then it just starts to head up. And it did look like there's a possibility of quite a bit of short selling, and shorts love to cover on a day like today. When the NASDAQ goes down almost 5%, that's a great day to cover as a short, because essentially there's such an immense amount of selling pressure that you can kind of get out of this stock without spiking it too much. However, we're still going to admit, even as they try to slowly exit the short position, and remember, there's still going to be a lot of shorts out there in TTCF and many of these stocks, but as they try to slowly exit out of this position, they still spike that stock. And then you had the market bouncing back in general, and buyers obviously coming in the market. And so you went from a situation with the chef today where there was just stupid selling pressure on it in the morning, the first few hours of trading, and then it just kind of chilled out for a bit. And then you get, this epic amount of kind of buying pressure coming in, and the sellers are all pretty much gone at that time. And that's how you get the stock to go from $10.89 to it closing at $12 and some change, which is a massive move there for the chef, okay? So that's quite interesting. Look at Shopify today, guys. This was epic, okay? Shopify hit $780 at the lows here today for Shop. Shopify hasn't been in that range since May of 2020, which was about a month and a half after the trough in the stock market crash of 2020. Okay. This is Shopify we're talking about here, which is just a enormous growth company that has such a huge long-term opportunity, but everybody was just selling this stock, all hands on deck this morning. I mean, that's extraordinary to drop to 780 for the stock. These are some prices in Shopify that a lot of folks just didn't think we'd see again. This stock is now, at the 780 level was down, and even at the 900 level was down, 50%, but at the 780 level down way over 50% there, right? In terms of just where it was at a few months ago. These moves are vicious, just vicious. So Shopify goes from down about 7% here today. Actually, I think it was down more than 7% at one point today, to up 6% plus closing. What a move in Shopify. That's just epic, right? Look at the trade desk, TTD here today. This stock it closes up 10% roughly, up 9.89%. This stock was down, 6% plus at the lows here today to finish up 9%. I mean, guys, these moves, and this is not a small market cap. It's not like this is some, $100 million market cap that just moves crazy volatile all over the place. It's a $30 plus billion market cap in this company. And it went from down 6 to up 9 in a matter of hours. Guys. These are extraordinary moves. A day like today, okay? A day like today, don't forget these sorts of days being in the market, because I can tell you these sorts of days in the market are very few and far between. This is not normal activity. This is not like, oh, this just happens all the time. No, you don't get intraday 5.5% moves on the NASDAQ very often. That is like insanely rare. You don't get these sorts of moves in these stocks where it's an intraday move of 10, 15, 20%. I mean, this is nothing short of extraordinary, folks. Extraordinary. Look at ARK Innovation ETF, Cathie Wood and ARK Fund, okay? So, ARK Fund here today. Remember, this is an ETF at the end of the day, and I understand it's Cathie Wood's, more of a growth fund, but still, it's a dang ETF. And this ETF hit 64.99 here today, which is the lowest this baby's been since since May of 2020. Since May of 2020, coming out of the Rona crash. That is, wow, okay? Wow is all I got to say. That is a pure capitulation where folks are just, selling at any price, like literally selling at any price, just sell, like sell it at any dang price. Extraordinary move down. Palantir here today hit $11.75 a share. $11.75 for Palantir here today. That one just, it can't find a bottom right now. It can't find a bottom, but look at the bounce back in the stock. This is where it almost finished in the green. From down, I think it was down 12, 13% at one point today, if not more than that. To finish almost green on the day is an epic reversal. I mean, look at this one's reversal throughout the day. Who's coming in and buying at that point? I think it's big money. I think you got all the selling pressure you could ever want out of this stock, right? And then all of a sudden, I think you get big money coming in and starting to do some buying when the markets change, right? And then you get some shorts, which this isn't a very heavily short stock, especially compared to some stocks, but you get some maybe short covering in there. And look at the shares that traded hands today. 110 million shares traded hands on the stock, compared to a usual amount of 40 million. This is ridiculous. Check out the volume on Square stock today. We talked about this one just a moment ago. 28 million shares traded hands. The usual amount for Square is 9.6 million. This volume's ridiculous. The Chef here today, 3.3 million shares traded hands. The usual amount is 1.3 million. So the selling pressure and buying pressure in these stocks is just off the charts right now, guys. And you were just in an ultimate volatile market, and that's why the VIX went insane today, okay? Now, look at some of these other stocks on my watch list, right? Nordstrom, up almost 13% here today. Stitch Fix, up 11% here today. The reversal in Stitch Fix, I should have pulled that one up. Oh my gosh, okay? Oh, you want to have some fun? Pull up a Stitch Fix chart for the day. Somebody let me know what the intraday move was on Stitch Fix. I'll look in the comment section, see who's got that. It's got to be some epic move, okay? Revolve ended up finishing up almost 10% here today. Foot Locker up 7.6%. Celsius Holdings up about 7% here today. Purple Innovation, the mattress and pillow company and bedding company, 6% move there. Oatly, otherwise known as Go remotely. Okay, that one up 5% plus here today. Maxar Technologies 3.5%, Funko 3%, GoodRx 3%. Remember, a lot of these stocks were down between 5% and 15% at the lows today, depending upon the stock. Look at Teladoc. Teladoc hit $67 a share here today. Okay, $67 a share here today, guys. It did finish out at 75, up 3%, but you know, that's a move. When it was at 67, guys, I mean, that almost puts the stock pretty much back to where it was prior to Rona, which is extraordinary when you think about it, because this company is so much more relevant. They're so much bigger. There's so much more known. Everything's so much better for them than it was back then, and yet the share price has been flirting with going back to literally where it was prior to Rona. It's extraordinary. You had Skyworks Solutions make a 3% move up today. Lemonade, 2.5%. Dropbox up 2%. Smile Direct Club up 2%. By the way, I heard that one's making a huge after-hours move there, okay? You had Facebook. Look at the move in Facebook today. It went from 290 to 309 in a matter of hours. That's a lot of money you get funneled in Facebook to make that sort of move. And isn't it interesting that it's almost like the first half of the trading day, it was like the glass was empty, right? And then all of a sudden the second half of the trading day, the glass was full. And it went from full sell-off mode to full buy-up mode. Extraordinary move. Sam was up. Honest ended up finishing up on the day, 1.6%. That one's lucky because it's not really, although it's a smaller cap company, it's one I personally own that I've been buying the last few months. It's not really grouped into the YouTube stocks, because the YouTube social media stocks, whatever you want to call them, those ones got hit by far and away the hardest today. I think we all know, there's two main reasons why, right? BYND down up about 1.6%. Amazon bounced back after being hammered here today. Amazon, I was looking at that one. I'm like, how do I not buy Amazon right now? Okay. Now, there was a big hedge fund conference today. All right. And just saw a gentleman speaking about what they were talking about at the big hedge fund conference. All right. Now, 3 days ago or so, I released a video on my main channel saying I'm prepping for recession. Now, when I prep for recession, I don't sell out all my stocks because the recession might not come. But what I do is I get cash ready. I get if I have to get financing ready, if I have to get margin ready, whatever I have to get ready for accessible money. Essentially, I get all of it ready because I'm like, there's a possibility we could have something like that happen. And I'm probably one of the first that's a bullish person to talk about that possibility, okay? And at the big hedge fund conference today, from what I understand, the big talking point at that hedge fund conference from people that were actually at it was, especially when the market was tanking, was people were talking about, hey, are we in for like a big recession, right? And you got to understand, when the NASDAQ, going into today, the NASDAQ was already down 12% year to date, right? Then all of a sudden you get an almost 5% move down the NASDAQ, and everybody starts talking like, hey, we're like starting to get into a full scale stock market crash now at this point. Imagine these hedge fund managers looking at their fund to like, oh my gosh. And they probably got clients calling them up like, hey, are you selling? What's going on here? Freaking out. And nonetheless, all of a sudden you start kind of, wait, are we going to have a recession? Like, what's going on? Like, how deep is the stock market crash going, and those sorts of things. And so you kind of get in this like really, really fearful mode, right? This really like sell now. I talked about this in a video a few days ago. It's like a sell now, ask questions later mentality. Just sell it all and we'll figure it out later, okay? And if we should buy back in or what's going on here, okay? And that's really started to become the mentality out there. Now, buy the dip. So obviously I bought the dip here today. I think you guys know that. But when it comes to buy the dip, we've lost a lot of the folks that were buying the dip. A lot of folks have just exited this market and just, clocked out essentially. We're like, I can't do it anymore. Either they ran out of money to buy the dip, or they're just at that pain state where when you're in a downtrending market, you start to get into this thinking cycle essentially, where you start thinking, and we got a lot more to go through here. You start thinking, okay, well, we're going down. I don't really need to buy today. And I think that's just become the overwhelming mentality from, I would call it the majority of investors. They're just kind of like, yeah, the NASDAQ's down 5%. Yeah, it's down, but do I have to buy today? And it starts becoming like, well, it can go lower, right? And I keep speaking on this. It's literally the exact opposite philosophy that was going on in January of 2021, when it was just stocks were going to literally to the moon, right? And everybody was like, it's going to go higher, so you just got to get in. And, that cycle broke, right? It broke down starting pretty much in February and started to break down more and more as the year went throughout the year, right? And now Some of those stocks, especially the ones that actually have good business models, have way undershot to the downside, in my opinion. And so now we're in it's just so interesting to see the exact opposite situation happening now, where it doesn't matter how cheap a stock goes. Folks have been making decisions to sell out of a lot of these stocks, when it's like, not only are they making a decision to not buy the dip, but to sell, okay? And once again, that's a whole different philosophy game. It's one thing if you want to hold some cash because you're like, I might get rough, I want to hold some extra cash. Okay, fair play. But it's another if you have excess cash and you're looking at stocks at great deals and you start thinking, well, I really want to buy, but it might go lower. Because then you're just like, okay, it could go higher. Like how low do you think it's going to go? Is everything going to go to $1? And so that's where you get into this tough situation. And unfortunately, on a day like today, there was I can guarantee you there's a lot of retail that sold within the first few hours of the market opening today. And, a lot of those stocks are already up 10, 15% from where folks sold at, which is unfortunate. Now, they could go right back down. They could go lower to where than folks sold at, and that's definitely a possibility. That's always a possibility, right? Doesn't matter if you're in a bull market, bear market, kangaroo market. That's always a possibility, but it's disappointing to see folks maybe get very, very short-sighted around the market. Even if I feel there's a chance of recession or anything like that, or the stock market get more rough over the next couple months, even if I think that, I don't sell out of stocks. I'm still going to continue to buy the dip as it's going down, and as it's coming back up, I'll buy. At the end of the day, if it's a great price, I've got to buy. I can't see the chef at $10, $11 today and be like, it might go to $9, so I won't buy it today. No, I'm going to buy some. Okay, and if it goes to $9, I'll buy some more. I can't see Honest at $5 and be like, I'm not going to buy Honest because it could go to $4. No, I'm going to buy some. That's just the name of the game for me. And hold, and when the sun shines again, we're going to, I'm going to make them a lot of money. But to get caught up into all the other stuff is just kind of, basically nonsense in my personal opinion, right? Now, this was very, very interesting, okay? Basically, there was an article, and I saw it out there and on the Hungry Bowl, and I was like, I got to see, what this is all about. And it was basically in regards to options and kind of what's going on in the options market. And so I clicked on it, and I kind of read up on this, and thanks for, the guys for writing this. It's a pretty good piece. It says, it appears option traders are nowhere to be found right now. Even with stocks extremely beaten down prices and oversold conditions, it seems these people don't expect it to ease anytime soon. I'm not seeing much along the line of quick end to the sell-off, said Chris Murphy, co-head of the Derivative Strategy Group at Susquehanna. I can never pronounce that name properly, okay? We'll just call it S International Group. It still looks pretty fearful, he says. The number of puts purchased today heavily outweighed the number of calls by a 1.1 to 1 ratio. This is the most bearish this ratio has been since March of 2020, according to Trade Alert, okay? This is definitely more severe than anything we've seen in pretty close to 2 years, said Randy, Vice President of Trading. Now, what's interesting in regards to this is what you just read there, okay? So this is the most bearish that ratio has been since March of 2020. What happened in March of 2020? The market bottomed. Now, this is not a clear signal to say, because this is like this, that means the market's going to bottom, within the next week or within the next couple weeks, okay? I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that's pretty darn interesting, isn't it, okay? I think you always have to look at these things and say, okay, we're so massively oversold and so many stocks, especially at the lows today, it was just astronomically ridiculous. And then you see this sort of activity, you see a clear capitulation day in the market. There's no debating that, right? Friday was a capitulation day. This was an extreme capitulation day that happened today. That's not like a debate, right? And so when you start seeing capitulation days and you start seeing stuff like this, the most bearish the ratio has been since March of 2020, you start adding these things up and it's like, okay. Although there was some call activity today, most traders appear to be staying away from the buy the dip mentality that so many held the past 2 years, Murphy said. Frederick believes that many investors are scared following last week's price action of the market selling off into the close on every apparent rally. He said, quote, if I were a bargain hunter, I might be a little gun shy based upon that. And absolutely, that's what happens in these sorts of markets. When you get a downtrending market, when you get a market going into a crash scenario, correction scenario, whatever you want to call it, right? Whenever you get in that sort of market, people start getting a little gun shy. Even big funds, they start saying, I don't know. When everything's going up, people get a lot of FOMO, right? And it's like, I got to get in the stock, got to get in the next one. And last year at this time, we had peak FOMO, the most FOMO I've ever seen in the market since I've been in for 14 years, okay? And we reached peak FOMO last year at this time. And now we're in this situation where it's the opposite of FOMO in this sort of market right now, where folks are, the most bearish they've been since March of 2020, and people are just looking and they're like, give me the puts and give me the puts. Maybe I'll sell my stocks and buy puts now. Okay. And a lot of folks start freaking out in this sort of market. I remember the first market I really freaked out in was basically late 2014 into 15. My accounts stopped going up and they started going down. And it was the first time in years, like I'd really been like hit. And I was going down, and I started freaking out. And there was, during the 2015, there were two separate times that I sold completely out of stocks, just on a whim, like completely I got scared and I sold out of stocks completely. And I did it again. One time I even went into gold. It was the only time I ever owned gold in my entire life. I went all into gold for a 3-day span. It was so ridiculous, okay? But I was scared as crap, and it was the first time I really got slapped in the market, like really, really bad. And it leads to people to make a lot of short-term decisions and start just freaking out when things aren't working out and things aren't going right? And start making decisions like, hey, I'm going to sell all my stocks and start buying puts, and it's like, you can do that, but it's just, okay? Now, Rona, so when it comes to Rona, I think this has hurt the economy. I think we're going to see it in the numbers over the next month or so. When numbers go as sky high as they've gone, the government should have thought about actually, believe it or not, doing a stimulus of some kind recently, or they should think about doing something, because I can guarantee you this has hurt the economy in the back half of December and into this month. I can guarantee you we've taken a hit to the economy because so many people and so many families have had a quarantine, which means they can't go out, they can't do stuff and whatnot. When numbers go that insane, and so we're in this situation where I guarantee, because imagine you're a waiter at a restaurant, right? You work part-time for that restaurant. You get the Rona, okay? Okay, now you can't go to that restaurant for a week, 2 weeks, or whatever, right? Now you're out of money for a week or two. The restaurant's not going to pay you. You're a part-time employee. They're not paying for your salary while you're out. That's not happening. And so that goes across anybody that's a part-time worker. If you work for a company that gives you great full-time benefits and you can call out for a week, right, and get paid, it's not working. That's not going to happen at your local restaurant. You think they're going to pay for you? No one's coming to pay for those people. And so you end up in this situation where I bet you any money this has actually hurt the economy quite substantially. And the government's asleep at the wheel in this situation. The government's asleep at the wheel, and it's unfortunate because I don't think they realize that, this is something that's actually hurting the underlying economy. Think about it. You got Rona, like almost everybody has over the past month or month and a half. Are you going to really go on that trip? No, now you're not, right? And if you look at plane flights and those sorts of things, the trend hasn't been your friend. Let's just put it that way. So the good news is it's starting to go down, but the bad news is I think this has actually hurt the economy. And unlike these other past periods, there's no stimulus out there. And here we are in this situation where we've had it worse by far and away than ever, and government's not doing a dang thing right now, right? And so that's a situation, right? Gladiator, great movie, one of my favorites ever. If you never watched Gladiator, watch Gladiator, Russell Crowe, okay? And there's a scene in it where he's talking about his army. He's like, I know you guys are tired, And essentially it reminds me of that scene because right now in the market, a lot of the retail crowd is just exhausted right now in the market, just been getting devastated, going through all this drama, and a drop like today. And these are the sorts of markets that make or break people. That's the way it is. It's the markets that make or break people. Some people are going to tap out. Clearly today, in that first several hours of trading, some people tapped out of this market. They're like, I am just done with this, okay? And they felt the way to ease the pain was just hit that sell button and sell everything in sight. And that happened, okay? And, you gotta battle through it. That's all I gotta say. You gotta battle through these sorts of markets. If you don't battle through these sorts of markets, these are the sorts of markets when you get these big corrections, when you get these big crashes in stocks down 50, 60, 70, 80%, and you get some opportunities in some of these stocks you love for the next 3-5 years. These are sort of opportunities that make you a whole lot of money. And if you don't take advantage of those opportunities, you end up in a situation where, you just, or a soldier laying on the battlefield not making it, okay? And so yeah, you gotta push through these times, guys. Much love as always. If you want some free stocks from Moo, that's a little pick me up. Okay, check out pinned comment down there, and yeah, get your free stocks, guys. 5 free stocks valued up to $3,500 each. What I'm doing in the market is I'm buying, as I always buy. If the market goes down more, I'll buy more. The Fed will be the Fed. I think the Fed's going to be on their best behavior. Let's just put it that way. I think this warning shot will have gotten through to the Fed. And we'll just kind of see what happens. And if we get more capitulation days, I'm ready. Getting a lot of stuff ready. Let's just put it that way. And I'll do whatever I have to do to buy more dips if we get more of this capitulation. And if not, and we head up from here, and today was the last capitulation day, it is what it is. Okay. Much love as always, guys, and have a great day.